Alright, so this is probably one of the most exciting talks you've had on here on the subject ever. This is so it's basically going to talk about any problems you might have. You've ever encountered a legacy app or an older application that's been dealing with different sort of characters, and you want to standardize that and migrate to using a unified character improvement system. So the problems really are legacy applications aren't always containing a standard unified character encoding system. The data may have come from all sorts of remote sources. Lots of different people might have worked on the files, and lots of people might have set up the databases and the data tables differently. If you've ever had to work with a system that's containing maybe Irish names, place names, people names, French, German, Eastern European characters, or even a Euro symbol, chances are at some point you thought you've had this sus, you thought you put the data in right, you can see it, and then when you bring it out in the front end, all you see is a question mark or a diamond or a square or something like that. That's because the character encoding hasn't been standardized properly. So the solution is obviously standardize your encoding, make sure you're doing it right. You know, sounds simple, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, headers, magic. Let's just set a header in our PHP file, or we can do it server level. Make sure we set a meta tag. Not that honestly makes an awful lot of difference. We go HTML5 style tag. So yeah, set the header tags. Boom, all done. Just like Northern Ireland against Austria in 1992. One good header, pack up, go home, job done. Just watch that and repeat all day.
That's nuts.
So yeah, but the problem is the characters that come in aren't always the same when they go out. So just because you set a character in the header, it says, right, this is all P or UTF-8 going out. If that's not what you actually stored, then it's not what's going to come out. So you gotta take care of your character encoding through all these different places: the front end pages, the database, the data tables, the data columns, your forms, and your server. If you remember nothing else about every slide in this talk, that one. This will sort so many of your problems out. Set names UTF-8. Basically what you're telling you run that one query right after you create your database connection, and you can put that in your PDO initialization code. Run that, and that's just basically telling the database, every time we talk to each other, we're doing it in UTF-8. When you create a database, if you've done set names at the start and you're building with a fresh database from that point on, everything is going to work for you. It's pretty much going to take care of it. If you're working with an existing database or existing tables, then you're going to need to change them. So you might want to alter the database, set it to UTF-8 in inclusion to UTF-8 Unicode. The CI is standing for case insensitive, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't see a difference between upper and lower case characters. Change your existing tables to UTF-8. Pretty much same thing. Alter table, set it to UTF-8 in inclusion again to UTF-8 Unicode. And so that's the actual database itself, the connection, the tables. Last thing you've got to worry about then are the individual columns, the fields in each table. So quite often, and if you use something like PHPBelfast, you'll be able to see then what it all is, and you can go in that way and manually change it. You can run these sort of queries to change individual columns. Change column title, you do have to rename it again, even though it's staying the same to title. Set your character set to UTF-8 and collation again to Unicode. That's pretty much the database covered. One of the caveats there then, UTF-8 being multi-byte takes up twice as much space to store those characters as old school LAN1 or SOW859-1 if you prefer. So your indexes, it may not sound like a big deal, but because those are storing twice as many bytes per character, your indexes are bigger. So if you're setting up indexes on complex queries across multiple columns, you might find that the database will come back and go, no, your defined indexes are too long, and you're going to have to either change some of your column sizes. Maybe instead of you put varchar 255, you're going to have to go, no, actually, I'm never going to use that. I'm going to set this column to varchar 50, and really start to restrict that to make sure that you can index on all the columns that you want. Forms, little known fact, but there are more attributes on a form type other than just method and action. None of us really will set end type unless we're uploading a file. But there is also accept char set, and that's basically saying that if I have an HTML form plunked on the web page, the form is expecting that code in that form to be UTF-8, and that's what it's going to try to send to the server on is UTF-8. Assuming, of course, you've got PHP headers as well. So it's a good one to throw in there just for completeness. Lastly, your PHP file, if you can access it, if you do have control over it, just uncomment the default char set line and set it to UTF-8. It's quite often commented out and set to ISO 59-1. Conversion. If you really must try to convert text from one to the other, there are a few functions within PHP that allege to do this. The first one you probably encounter if you go for a Google and look it up is UTF-8 encode. UTF-8 encode is a useless pile of dung. Alright? Unless the encoding of $string was precisely in ISO 59-1, then that function just won't work because that's all it can work with. So you could well think you have it right, but you don't know where your data has come from, especially if you've gotten a database that's been provided to you. That could have come from Eastern Europe and has all sorts of weird encoding. So that function's just pretty much not going to work for you. Icon's not a bad function now, it does promise a lot. You basically tell it what you think the encoding was of your string, so you have the option of telling it what the encoding is it's working with. You tell it you want to work with UTF-8. This option translate is basically saying if you don't know what the equivalent character is, find one that's a bit like it. So instead of an A with a must, just use a plain A, or so that's quite a useful feature. You can actually tell it to ignore, in which case it will still just ignore that character and give you more ability. And the bottom one, MB convert encoding. So you do need the multi-byte extension for PHP installed. That one isn't one that you can use straight out of the box. In many ways similar to the one above, some of the parameters just inverted. When you're outputting your text, HTML entities, you may not know, but does support a third parameter. It's amazing how many functions we use day to day that have an extra parameter we never actually use. But you can't tell when you're escaping your output to go and say, right, this is actually UTF-8, and that will help on your output. And since PHP 5.5, and this one caught me off guard, because I haven't actually encountered or ever used this one yet, but there's this new converter class. So I'm guessing this is probably the best approach from now on, but I haven't had to play with it, so I can't vouch for it. But I would, if you do have any encoding issues, I would say go try that one first for the crack. Yeah, but pretty much conversions. Yeah, total fail. If you can avoid having to convert text, avoid it at all costs, and set your database up properly. Make sure you set names. It is by far the best option. Last thing that might overlook is the files that we all work with ourselves on our local desktop. Have you ever actually looked at that wee bit in the bottom taskbar? You can say that you are working with UTF-8 on your source code files. This is quite important in your Smarty templates or Twig templates set. You could be hard coding, character encoding into your templates and screwing it up. Or if all your developers aren't on the same page, you've got something working, the next guy comes along and opens it, and he has his machine set to 59-1 and just trashes half of your code. I have in the past opened source code files that is just filled with pretty little boxes of meaningless gobbledygook because another developer didn't have his set ID set to auto detect the encoding, or was forcing the encoding. So just watch out for that one. That's setting on your ID when you go home.
That's a really dangerous one because I think PHP Storm, at least the default in PHP Storm would be different depending on what system you have. So if you're on Windows, the default would be Win1252. Which is
I never actually mentioned that one.
The Mac is the Mac one would be Mac Roman something else, and if you're using it in Unix, it would be a different character set again. So it was never UTF-8, it was never the same across things. So as soon as you get the PHP Storm, you need to just go and set it before you forget.
It is actually tempting to think that your default was ISO 5991 or Latin 1 for slightly shorter, but as Andy said, Windows had its own special encoding system. It was kind of close, but conveniently left shit out and screwed it up for you. So yeah, definitely take a look at the setting on your IDE. Don't forget about that, because that's the one thing that can trash your source files on you, and that can have a much bigger impact. Although if we're all version control for suite, then we know exactly who to blame. That's it. Thanks very much.
Tim, aside from the ID, is it a problem to mix the character sets with your database and your pages and?
Yeah, avoid it at all costs.
Just have unexpected results when you pull things out, and you'll be showing Latin characters on a UTF-8 page, and they won't show right, or vice versa.
Once you start mixing the encodings, that's when things go in. But then that's where you would start
if
to go in and
you-
use your PHP icon function.
If you're building it from scratch, you wouldn't.
Yeah, if you're building from
You
scratch.
potentially mix it, of course, but like you say, if you inherit a system, pretty big system, that's going to take you a long time to get through.
It is. You're going to want to start by standardising your database, and you may at some point have to run a conversion loop to check your tables and your records.
There's a wee website I found one time for converting a MySQL database, and you basically you just dump the database to a SQL file, and it runs through it. You dump it out as a particular encoding, UTF-8, no matter what type it is. And then there's a couple of Perl commands and stuff you can run, searches and braces and stuff, and then you can import back in, and it'll all be UTF-8. But you do need to do that because you will end up with a mix mash, and there'll be things you can't fix because if you UTF-8 encode, if you try and encode this one, and it works, and then someone else put another one in and it's in the right character set, it'll break it and you try and re-encode it again. You just won't know what's what. And you just end up with random characters all of the time. You can never just get it right. I have a few sites still ongoing that are like that are just hacked together, and I just don't have time to search them out. And I sort of fix it on a case by case basis.
If you're not seeing those awkward characters,
if you're not seeing them, then
because you don't always see them, do you? They
No.
don't always throw up those. So do you just leave it?
Yeah,
Or do you still go through and fix it?
Yeah, there is
Just wait
kind
for
of
the
a.
characters and then fix it?
If you've inherited something that's not broken, I wouldn't spend 2 days going through trying to fix something that's not broken, but
Potentially vacant.
you could potentially break
if
something.
you don't need to upgrade to UTF-8, don't. No, you don't have to.
Does anyone else have trouble with emails that get redirected through Exchange or being bounced back instead of UTF-8?
If they are UTF-8.
If they are UTF-8. There was a while that Microsoft were protesting against UTF. It's probably because
Protesting against the world.
One of the worst problems I ever had was because the client was writing some content for the website in Word and just copying and pasting it directly into the CMS, and it was causing havoc.
Again, that's where you're probably getting that 1252 encode. It's Windows on.
They also have strange hyphens and strange quotes, but they should work in UTF-8. If you're doing through UTF-8, those characters will go through. That's a good
And
idea.
emojis.
Right.
You never have to worry about emojis.
Is it worth converting to UTF-16? So that's 8 better.
Twice as good. By a factor of reduce your indexes again.
We just buy it that way.
I don't know.
I don't know that there's much benefit to 16. I mean, 16 allows Chinese, Mandarin, and all that sort of stuff.
I did once attend a talk several years ago, and it was delivered by a lady from MySQL, and she was talking all about the issue of character encoding, and her advice was, where possible, stick with Latin 1. She was American and never had to encounter a strange character in her life, so.
Well, they should have Americans should have lots of strange characters. Is that racist? Sorry. I like 100 meters.
Yeah, that's it. Any